The story revolves around a young woman named Juliet who finds herself in a difficult situation. After a car accident, she is left alone in the middle of a desolate desert. At the beginning of the story, Juliet moves slowly through the barren landscape. Exhausted by hunger and thirst, she is surrounded by a silent landscape with abandoned cars and scattered remnants of others' belongings. Finally, she spots an abandoned gas station and decides to check it out, hoping to find food or at least water. Upon entering, Juliet immediately inspects a small grocery stand, but unfortunately, everything on the shelves has long since been emptied. Tired and disappointed, she sits in an old chair, takes off her cap and mask, and it becomes clear that she is a young and attractive woman. Suddenly, her attention is caught by a strange sound coming from the roof. Juliet grabs her weapon and listens carefully. Soon, a growl from above makes her heart race. Realizing that something threatening is close by, Juliet quickly leaves the store, rushing outside. As soon as she exits, she connects by radio with someone from the camp where she likely lives with other survivors. A man is on the line, with whom she shares her failed search for food and informs him that she encountered a strange creature capable of growling like a beast at the abandoned gas station. The man advises her not to return there. We learn that the situation in the camp is critical, housing about 40 people, with nearly no food left. In an attempt to shorten her way back, Juliet decides to take an alternate route through the wasteland. Suddenly, she spots a large van left by the roadside. She takes her gun and heads toward the van to scout. As she approaches, she notices many bloodstains on its body. Near the van sits a man with a severe wound to his abdomen. Juliet points her weapon at him, demanding he remove his hands from the wound to assess his condition. The man admits that he was attacked by a strange mutant, which he managed to trap in the van. She cautiously asks if there's anything useful in the van and learns that 12 cans of food are hidden inside, a true treasure for survivors in such a desert. The wounded man, losing strength, begs her to end his suffering, but she decides not to waste a bullet and advises him simply to take his hands off the wound, which would speed up his passing. Juliet unlocks the van and steps inside. A growl is heard. She fires her weapon. Sounds of a struggle and her own screams fill the air. Another shot rings out, and then everything goes silent. The girl has defeated the monster. She exits the van and sees the man already lying on the ground. Juliet takes the man's cans and a flask of alcohol. On her way back to the camp, her gaze falls on a photo stuck in the vehicle, showing her with her boyfriend. Suddenly, a gust of wind blows the photo outside. In the chaos, Juliet loses control of the vehicle and crashes. Flashbacks take us to the past when life on Earth was still normal. Juliet visits New York Gallery hosting an exhibition of the famous artist Francis Bacon. There, a young man named Jack, the gallery owner, approaches her. He immediately senses she's there by chance, and Juliet admits she came into the gallery to escape the rain. Jack offers her a glass of wine and talks about Bacon's paintings, which seem strange and even frightening, yet hold a profound inner beauty. After chatting, Juliet and Jack leave the gallery and take a stroll around the city. He invites her to his place, where she realizes he is very wealthy. They drink whiskey with French cheese and talk late into the night. Suddenly, Juliet gathers her things and leaves Jack's house, leaving him perplexed. Some time later, they run into each other at a bar. Jack notices her companion giving her money as she hands him a white powder. Intrigued, he begins to follow her and sees Juliet heading to a troubled neighborhood, where she interacts with local dealers. Jack catches up with her and insists on a conversation. Juliet takes him to her small, dark apartment, where she tries to tidy up a bit while making tea. It becomes clear that Juliet is also a dealer and, moreover, uses illegal substances herself. Jack doesn't judge her and offers help, but she flatly refuses and tells him to leave. Time passes. Jack is at home lost in thought, drinking whiskey and drawing. Suddenly, an exhausted Juliet arrives, practically collapsing into his arms. Seeing her bruised, he helps her take a bath, carefully wiping away the traces of her injuries from her face and body, and then lays her in bed. In the morning, Juliet thanks him for his help but confesses that she needs another dose. She is ready to go out and search for it, but Jack doesn't let her leave, despite her fits and tears. Over time, with Jack's support, Juliet finds the strength to fight her dangerous addiction. They grow closer, fall in love, and decide to start a new life together. Jack buys a large, luxurious house, showing Juliet the living room, bedroom, and a cozy nursery, dreaming that one day she will give him a child. Soon, Juliet shares joyful news with Jack. She's expecting a baby, and he is overjoyed by this. However, their happiness is short-lived. During childbirth, the baby never takes its first breath. This is a heavy blow for Juliet, and she deeply mourns the loss, blaming herself and her unhealthy lifestyle. Jack tries to support her through this difficult time, but their relationship becomes more strained with each passing day. They often argue, and during another heated argument, they separate. Juliet spends time at a bar with a glass of whiskey in hand. Suddenly, she hears shocking news on TV about a chemical attack in the New York subway. At that moment, she receives a call. She's informed that Jack is in the hospital, one of the few survivors of the tragedy. Since the exact gas used by the criminals is unknown, doctors cannot precisely predict the consequences for Jack's health. He is in critical condition, unable to speak. Juliet comes to him and sincerely asks for forgiveness. Using a small tablet to write brief messages, he tells her that he loves her and urges her to never give up. The next day, he is taken from the hospital, and doctors do not give Juliet clear information about where he has been transferred. Left alone in the empty room, she is engulfed in deep sorrow. Time shifts back to the present. Juliet regains consciousness after the accident. It's nighttime, and she's alive but badly injured, with numerous cuts and bruises, and worst of all, an open fracture in her leg. She sees her gun on the ground near the car and desperately tries to reach it. Taking a sip from a flask of alcohol, she disinfects the wound and attempts to set her broken bone. Struggling, she grabs her radio and tries to call for help, but all she hears is static and interference. Suddenly, a loud growl is heard, likely from the same creature that was at the gas station and in the van. It approaches the car, and Juliet finally manages to grab her weapon. The creature has distinctly human legs, hinting that it was once human. Someone from the camp responds, but the loud voice attracts the mutant's attention. Realizing it is about to climb into her car, Juliet throws the radio outside. The creature finds it and smashes it, then tries to climb into the car. From afar, the growl of a second mutant echoes, and the first creature goes to investigate. Taking advantage of the moment, Juliet escapes the car and retrieves the broken radio. The same monster appears nearby again, and she rushes back to hide in the cab. She holds the gun, ready to fight for her life. The mutant grabs her leg, but she manages to fend it off and lands several successful shots. Juliet repairs the broken radio and contacts her camp. A man named Harry tells her she must activate the locator beacon in her car, which will help rescuers find and save her. Juliet locates the beacon, reads the instructions, and activates it. Just then she is attacked again by one of the mutants, which tries to grab her leg. She manages to fend it off once more and barricades one of the car doors. Harry contacts her over the radio, informing her that a rescue team is already on its way. Seeing the mutant next to her car, Juliet turns on the headlights, and the bright light scares the creature off for a while. Hearing the mutants growl over the radio, Harry suddenly declares that no one will rescue her in the middle of the night. Because it's too dangerous, the people from the camp will come only at dawn. Juliet is furious, as dawn is still far off. Juliet honks repeatedly, hoping someone will hear her and come to her aid. It works. A car appears nearby. Inside are two looters, but instead of rescuing her, one of them attacks her. The same mutant sneaks up from behind and kills the bandit. His partner immediately drives away in panic. Losing hope for rescue, Juliet loads her gun and prepares to say goodbye to life. At that moment, she remembers Jack's words, urging her to never give up, and she lowers her weapon. Determined to fight the mutant, she retrieves a gasoline can from the car and sets a trap. Juliet lights a bright torch and approaches the dangerous creature. Luring it toward the gasoline canister, she sets it ablaze, causing an explosion. Unfortunately, the mutant is only slightly injured. It sneaks up from behind, and Juliet drops her gun. Struggling, she manages to crawl back into the car and retrieve her weapon. However, the monster pulls her out and throws her to the ground. She fires, and the wounded mutant collapses beside her. Dawn breaks. The half-alive mutant crawls toward Juliet, who is lying on the ground. She believes it will finish her off and quickly reloads her revolver. However, the mutant touches her face in the same way Jack used to cheer her up. Only then does Juliet realize that this creature is her beloved Jack, and she recalls their first meeting at the gallery. Juliet embraces mutant Jack and tells him she loves him. She then holds the gun to her head beside his and pulls the trigger. A photo of Juliet and Jack symbolically flies upward, carried away by a gust of wind.